When it comes to this Democratic primary, I'm worried about something. And what I'm worried about is that, acknowledging that we still got a long way to go in this, when I look at the polls, I see a very different story than I see reflected in the way I think a lot of fellow leftists, fellow progressives think this thing is playing out. And that is that a lot of them seem to think that Joe Biden is already gone. His ship has sailed, he's done, he's formally in this, but he'll be dropping out soon. And some of these polls I'm seeing imply that we're not quite there yet. So take a look at this. Former Vice President Joe Biden's lead in the race for the Democratic nomination for president has apparently rebounded and now stands at its widest margin since April, according to a new CNN poll conducted by SSRS. In that poll, he's at 34%, which puts him quite a bit ahead of Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders at 19% and 16%. In fact, he's doing about as well as almost both of them combined at this point. Now, this is just one poll. And you should understand that yesterday a poll came out by Emerson showing Biden up just 2 points, 27 to Bernie's 25. But I mean, in both of these cases, Biden is still very much in this. And when I listen to people talk about this, it's very much like, oh, how is Bernie gonna differentiate himself from Elizabeth Warren? As if that's the only thing he needs to do. But Biden is still out there in front of both of them in all these polls, even the ones that seem more favorable that you hear about less in the media. He's still up by a couple of points, and I feel like a lot of people have written Joe Biden off at this point. What do you think?
Were you one of those people? Is the first question, I think, because.
Well, I mean, from very early on in the race, I was saying I think that Biden is inevitably going to fall once we get into the actual campaigning, the actual debates. But the thing is, I think that my prediction was right in process, but not in effect. His campaigning is nothing impressive. He's not drawing big crowds or anything like that. His debate performances have been mediocre at times and concerning at other times. Those things just haven't had the effect a reasonable person would expect them to have on the actual polling.
I think this is one of those weird toss-ups of the kind of voter that we are dealing with. The independent, undecided voters that don't know exactly which way to go, I think are a minority. It's people who are stuck in their ways, who down ballot vote this way because my grandfather voted that way on both sides of the aisle. And I think that's still the majority. So Joe Biden represents that. And when he had his wavering moments in the first couple debates, when Kamala Harris destroyed him and people said, oh my God, he's done. Oh, he can't think straight. Oh man, how'd he do that? I remember the busing incident. All that stuff happened and damaged him for a minute. And it made those people who are the definites, I don't have to think about this, think about it and go, who else do I like then? Because I don't think Joe Biden is viable. And then they start leaning towards Elizabeth Warren. That's when she surged. And they're like,
or
she's
previously
safe.
Kamala for a little bit.
Because what that voting bloc likes is the safe establishment, chill Democrat that they think is a definite to beat Donald Trump. And so they started going, who else is there? And as that news passed, and then we hear about Joe Biden only as the victim of Donald Trump's constant looking for investigations into a foreign country, that boosted him back up and they said, he's back to being our guy, and they came back. I mean, this is my very, I guess, unscientific approach to what I think is happening, but that voting bloc is the strong part that a lot of us progressives and liberals don't pay attention to because we think, oh, that old guard is over. We're surrounded by all these California progressives and libs and we know what we're talking about, which we do. But there's that large voting bloc that was the Hillary people that are still there, and there's still the point that's gonna help, I think, decide the election.
It's interesting that you brought up the Trump stuff because I was thinking about that too as a potential explanation if this is durable and shown. Like I said, I tried to give you the context of all the debate, all the polls. This one really good for Biden, the one yesterday not good for Biden, good for Bernie Sanders there, or not as good, I should say. And yet, the stuff that's going on in the news definitely paints Biden simultaneously, depending on who you are. If you're a Trump supporter, you think, oh my God, that corrupt old corn pop fighting MFer, that's what you think. And if you're someone like me, you think, oh my God, this is literally the last thing we need. If he is the candidate in the general election, this is gonna be a nightmare. I remember 2016, it's gonna be the same thing. But if you already were predisposed to like Joe Biden, then what do people do when their candidate's attacked? They rally to them. Look at Hillary Clinton attacking Tulsi Gabbard. Were Tulsi Gabbard fans like, I am concerned about her? No, you defend your candidate if they're being attacked. And I think the same thing's probably happening with Joe Biden. So to some extent, the stuff that Trump is doing is helping him in the future, but it's also helping him right now because he also wants to run against Joe Biden.
Absolutely.
He's not doing the investigation because he's really worried about Joe Biden. And so the reason I bring up all this, and the reason, by the way, so I got your opinion, I got my opinion. I polled you guys on Twitter before the show. It's only been out for a little bit, but I asked, where do you stand on Joe Biden's chances in the primary? And there's like 1,800 votes. 12% of you said likely he'll win. 42% of you said slim chance he'll win. 46% said he's done. So 88% of you say at best he has a slim chance of winning. He's been ahead in the polls for months and months and months. And the reason I bring this up is he's not done. If you want him to not be the candidate, you have to engage with it. You have to figure something out. It can't just be about fending off Buttigieg and there's Kamala and Warren. Those are important things you have to do too, very important. But Biden is still on top right now in the polls. And I think that people need to take him seriously or else he could slide through this thing.
That's true. And then if and when he does slide through this thing, then you got those people who didn't take him seriously. They're willing to vote third party or not vote at all and all that stuff. And that's the disaster that I think many Republicans want to see happen.
I would say let's just avoid all of that. Beat him in the primary now, okay? Let's come together for that. And then we can go back to dealing with all the other candidates too. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.